Modified phase 2 begins as the state tries to stop that surge in new cases. And as Mike McDaniel explains, hospitals and parish governments are preparing for more cases and urging people to take the restrictions seriously.
Medical professionals like Dr. Julio Figueroa with LSU Health are once again seeing a concerning amount of COVID patients.
Nothing has come close to what it was in the spring, but there are definitely trends towards increasing ICU admissions and certainly inpatient admissions as well.
With surges of new coronavirus cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, Wednesday, Governor John Bel Edwards announced the state would move back to a modified phase 2. Dr. Figueroa says following restrictions, along with the mask mandate and social distancing, are crucial.
The increasing death rate is something that's really important, because I think that we're going to be losing folks that we shouldn't have if we had been following the restrictions.
Figueroa says healthcare workers can also become patients, putting a strain on any hospital's ability to provide adequate care. One area being hit especially hard with new coronavirus cases is right here in Jefferson Parish, where there's a current 5.1% positivity rate.
In the middle of November, certainly in Jefferson Parish, we could see our numbers rising, and then since then it's risen very quickly.
A report from the White House Coronavirus Task Force shows Jefferson Parish as the third leading parish in the state for new coronavirus cases over the last 3 weeks. Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang says most businesses are following current restrictions. Like the governor, she points to people letting their guards down as part of the problem.
It's the private gatherings in their homes. It's what they're doing with their friends, getting together, not masking, and the transmission is going on that way.
Going into peak holiday season, both Lee Shang and Figueroa say gatherings with friends or family could do more harm than good.
Those spaces that are public, you can regulate, but those spaces that are private, my house, for example, basically I am the person that has to be responsible for that.
Mike McDaniel, Eyewitness News.